adorable children.
Adorable? Well, that's debatable, I must say.
As much as any of the other roles in Mary Poppins, the piece is carried by the young actors playing Jane and Michael Banks. So what is it like for a young performer to take on such a challenging role? And also, what do we really know about the two young children of the Banks family?
Jane and Michael Banks have the largest roles in the show. They occupy far more stage time than any other characters, far more than Mary or Bert or Mr. and Mrs. Banks.
The kids are simply marvellous because they have to drive the story through. And, you know, if you didn't have good kids, it didn't matter how good the adults would be, the show would sag.
These are young people, and they're in almost every scene. And the few scenes they're not in, they're actually having costume changes or being loaded into the scenery that's about to move on.
Each child brings their own sense of self to the parts of Jane and Michael. We don't have any carbon copies or cookie cutter children at all.
I would be a hot mess if I were ever to do this when I was 10 years old. I'd be all over the place. Not to mention they go to school during the day, and I mean, it's a lot. And they're in the show more than I am.
6 different children play the role of Jane and Michael Banks between them on Broadway. We caught up with them to ask them all about it.
We play Jane Banks, and she's definitely on the bratty side. Definitely.
Definitely.
And she has a brother, Michael, and they're both sort of the same. Very snooty, think they're all that.
Back here, you little blighters! You've got to do your lessons!
I can't do my lessons from flying a kite.
No.
And you can't make us. You're only our nanny. Towards the beginning, he's very, well, you're just a nanny that's pulling stuff out of your bags. Anyone can do that, and obnoxious. Kind of the same exact like Jane.
Very much like Jane.
Just always want to do things their way.
And we're usually upstairs, like, yelling and screaming. Out of control, pretty much.
I'm glad we're not good. I hate being good.
So now we know a bit about who Jane and Michael are, but what about the young actors playing them? What's a day in the life for them at the theater?
At the beginning of my day, I just have like breakfast, and then of course we all go to school and have after-school activities that we want to do. We want to hang out with friends. But in a way, this is sort of like so much better because it's like a play date every day with all of us.
Every day with all of us.
Not only are the kids in our show exceptional on stage, they're exceptional off stage too. They have to maintain their grades, they have to do well in school, and all of them possess the quality to have a really good head on their shoulders for, you know, being so young and in the business at such an early age.
I'm like in 8th grade, and this week I have all my quarterlies. So I've been trying to like study for that on the bus ride, and then when I'm on standby, and then I have to do my homework as well. And so it's hard juggling it all. I'm really lucky because it only takes me a half hour to get here. But at 7 o'clock, we usually go up to hair to get our hot curlers in, and then they do our hair, they finish styling it, and then we go to makeup. For the makeup, it's just a little bit of blush, and hair is just like comb it and some spray, and then we're off to the show.
Jane and Michael's characters have a complex journey in the show, one that would present a challenge for any seasoned actor, let alone a child. So what's required of them?
They need to act, they need to sing, they need to dance a bit, they need to be engaging and charming when we want them to be. We need to sort of think they're a little annoying to begin with. They need to break your heart at the end. They need to do this switch within the show, and that's quite challenging, really.
These children are getting quite disconnected to their own childhood, and it's Mary who reconnects them to magic, to imagination, to potential, to the idea that they should live as children and recognize they one day will grow up, but they needn't hasten that.
In the bank scene, Michael asks his father, like, were you ever a little boy? Because he can't even imagine his father running around and doing what we're doing because he's so strict now.
Well, when I was a little boy, would never have dared interrupt my father.
Were you ever a little boy? In Mrs. Corey scene, like he was actually here having all this fun with these letters and everything and doing all this, and like now he's so strict and stern.
Your father? He used to give his nanny the slip and come into my shop here in secret.
It can't have been the same, George Banks. It's sort of like a wake-up call for Jane and Michael. Like, wait, my dad was here too?
Mary Poppins doesn't tell the children what to do. She gives them choices, and it's up to them to make the right choice. And one of the reasons she leaves at the end of the first act is because they don't make the right choice, and she knows until they learn to do that, she has to leave them to their own devices.
Brimstone and Treacle changed them a lot because they realize, oh, well, that's how my dad was raised. Maybe we should stop being so mean to him.
The scene that turns Jane into loving her dad is there's a sixpence scene where he's really stressed out because of his job and he's not getting paid, he doesn't have a salary. So we come in with our sixpence that we actually got at the bank. We give them to him and he's kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I say, what do I say?
The kids get looked after by their parents, but who looks after the parents?
Fathers are supposed to look after their children, not yell at them all the time. Jane and Michael kind of realize we need to love our parents just like they love us.
Mary teaches them all these wonderful lessons and takes them on journeys and adventures, and they learn a lot from that, and by the end of the show, they're angel children that they don't need a nanny anymore.
Audiences like it because it really teaches them to just respect your family and just love them for who they are.
They themselves are the driving force of this show. And I think that it resonates with both kids, but with older people as well. And you couldn't do that if you didn't have great kids on stage.
From an entertainment point of view, it's fun because the young people in the audience are connecting with those children. But every adult in the audience was those children.
So, after another successful performance amongst the bright lights of Broadway, how do these young stars finish their evening's work?
At the end of the show, if it's an 8 o'clock show, the Janes and Michaels usually get out at about 10:45, and we go home, and of course we're tired, but we're so happy, and we love it, and we love every minute of it, and we're so happy that we get to do it. We get to wake up and do it again.